welcome to Modelling Misadventures, and in this video I'm going to carry on trying to make the FAB 1 Rolls Royce from Thunderbirds. Now in the last video I was working on this front wing. Initially it started off as being quite rough, but I've done a bit of sanding and it's starting to look a lot better. So in this video I'm going to carry on and print out the rest of the body parts after they've been scaled up and see how it looks. So the next part I wanted to print out and scale up was this bonnet section. Going to be very important for joining the two halves of the car together. So that's going to be a very big part, and let's see how it prints. Well, this is the bonnet print underway, and you can see it's taken up all of the build plate here. And we've been going for a couple of hours here, and it's going to take another 24 hours to finish. There's a bonnet about to come off the printer after 27 hours and 43 minutes. Here's how the bonnet turned out. I'm actually really happy with this part. It's looking pretty realistic. There is the usual steps down here along that curve, but that can be easily sanded off. The rest of the finish is pretty good, some light sanding and filling, but really happy with this so far. Now I did make a mistake on the design of this. The front section of this is actually vertical, and on FAB 1 it should be at an angle. So I'm actually going to print a little spacer here that will tilt that forward to get the Rolls Royce grille sitting properly. But other than that, really pleased with that. So this is the little piece that I've printed to fit on the front of the grille section. So that's going to be glued on there, and that will now make the front grille sit at the correct angle. Well, the next part I printed out is the boot, and again it's a pretty big piece of plastic. So I designed this basically just as a solid slab with a slope on it. I've actually introduced that little line there which represents where the boot would open, and then it's got this semicircular section here which outlines the rear of the glass canopy. So that's come out pretty well. So that is what the parts are looking like so far, and you can see the little 3D printed car in the middle for comparison. Now I'm going to do a bit more sanding on these parts before I fasten them together, and then it'll need sanding many more times again, but it's really starting to take shape. Now I've been busy working on these parts and sanding them down, and they're getting closer to what I want them to be. So I've nearly got most of the model sanded. I have printed out a few more parts. This great big section here is the interior, where I'm going to put the seats and Parker's controls. I've printed out this fluted section which goes above the dashboard. That's going to need a bit of sanding. And I've actually modified the boot. The original one came down in a straight line and it was going to need a lot of sanding. I've redesigned it on Tinkercad and put this curve in so that the bonnet falls away at a more natural angle. So a bit more sanding to do, but it's getting quite close to being glued together. Now I've spent absolutely ages sanding these parts, and I wouldn't recommend anybody trying to follow suit. It's not very pleasant, but anyway, there's the only way I could get them to be nice and smooth, and I'm actually going to glue it all together now and see what it looks like. Well, here it is. It's quite big, isn't it? I'm very happy with how this looks so far. I have made a mistake here in the design. You can see here that there's a ridge between the side pieces and the bonnet. Didn't get the angle quite right on the computer design. Another rookie error, but I'm afraid that's going to have to be rectified by the age-old method of sanding. But other than that, I think it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to press on. I'll get all that sanded. The bodywork will need more filling and sanding, and then I'm going to start adding a few extra little bits and pieces on it. But for now, I think that's it. So I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you next time on Modelling Misadventures.